Hey, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. This is the last full day of campaigning for the July 24th. That's tomorrow. Look at your calendar. Tomorrow's runoff election for the Republican Party for Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor. So what I wanted to do this morning is not try to invite a bunch of the candidates on to tell you what they think. I wanted to bring on some people that support the candidates and ask them directly why they support the candidates and why they would like for you to vote for the candidate of their choice. Our first guest is Jeanne Seaver. She's a grassroots activist and former Georgia grassroots coordinator for the Trump campaign. Jeanne, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you, Brian?
I'm good. Let's just do this like I put on Facebook. My first question out of the box: why are you supporting Brian Kemp? Why do you want him to be the next governor of Georgia?
Well, first of all, the thing that hits the heart the most is he will put Georgians first, all Georgians first, not the special interests, not the lobbyists. You know, he will put Georgians first. That's one thing I know. The other thing I know is that I've known Brian for, I don't know, about 14 years, and I've been through several campaigns with him. And he's one of the most hardworking, trustworthy politicians I have met. Currently, he serves as the Georgia Secretary of State. After hours, he campaigns nonstop. He never fails to answer a phone call or text messages. And anytime I needed information from him over the years, he has always responded immediately. And if he didn't have the answers, he would delegate someone to provide the information. He is a machine, and he's super accessible at all times. He is a real conservative, pro-life family man, conservative, Second Amendment loving, public servant.
Well, let me ask you a little bit, and so our audience knows. Tell me a little bit about yourself as a grassroots activist. Now you're down in Savannah, Georgia, right?
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about grassroots activists and your time as a grassroots coordinator for the Trump campaign. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I have been very involved since I moved to Georgia in 2000 with the Republican Party. And then when the Tea Party Patriots and the Tea Party came on, I jumped on board and was the co-founder of the Tea Party here. People were getting to feel that Washington, D.C. weren't listening to the people. They were listening to the special interests of the lobbyists. So we came out, and the grassroots grew, and all like-minded people started gathering together, standing up for, the best interest of all of us, and making it clear to the elected officials. And so with the Trump, I was very honored to be asked to be the grassroots coordinator for the Trump campaign, and it was an amazing journey. I'll never forget the first rally that I attended in that room, and I've been around in millions of not millions, but hundreds of rallies all over this state and nationally, and I've never seen a more diverse group of people ever. It was young, it was old, it was black, it was white, it was Hispanic, it was Muslims, it was teenagers. I mean, older folks, business folks. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen a movement like that. And this was the Trump movement. And the experience was 99% of the people that signed up to help get Donald Trump elected were people that were never, ever even involved in a campaign before. And these folks were the most loyal, committed people that I have ever known. We were all like-minded people, no matter how many, we're talking 17 candidates in this race. And was the journey brutal? Absolutely. But our folks stood strong, and they are responsible for getting Donald Trump elected as the nominee in Georgia and nationwide. I mean, I'll tell you this, Brian. The Trump campaign in the pre-primary, Donald Trump had 126 employees on his payroll nationally. 126, that is it. The rest was the grassroots army that put this together to brought the victory for Donald Trump.
Let me ask you a question on that note. Now, I want to bring it back to the Georgia governor's race for a minute between Casey Cagle and Brian Kemp. There has been some back and forth for quite some time from other people that participated in Trump's campaign that have endorsed Casey Cagle with an official statement that they were officially with the Trump campaign. And there's been some back and forth on who really supported Trump first in the state. And I think you see that. I mean, it's on a daily basis, somebody trying to decide, hey, did Brian Kemp support Trump first? Did Casey Cagle support Trump first? Do you know who really in the organization supported Trump that's supporting your candidate or Cagle? Can you clear any of that confusion, or am I just making it worse?
Well, it's like, all I can say is this, Brian, because I'm not going to be critical of anyone that was there behind Trump trying to get him elected. I'm not going to be critical of that. But it seems like the ones with the titles are the ones that are claiming the victory and stating that Casey Cagle was the only one that was behind Donald Trump and actively fought, to get him elected. I mean, I received a phone call from Jack Kingston, a robo phone call from Jack Kingston that said, I'm Jack Kingston, and I just want you to know that the reason that Donald Trump won was because of Casey Cagle. And it just broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart. Like I said, all of us played a role. The grassroots were the hardest ones on the ground. They were doing the work. Yeah, there's some with titles out there. I'll tell you, for one, Sue Everhart. I love Sue Everhart, man. She is a solid conservative woman who was one of the first people out there for Trump. And I remember the day she came and announced on that stage. She's a good woman. I don't know. Like I said, there were 5 people that were hired by the Trump campaign. It was Brandon Phillips. It was Ryan Cagle. It was Gary Weisenbaker, Charlize Byrd, and then myself. And Charlize and I and Gary were the boots on the ground in Georgia, working hard to get the folks out together and giving them and providing them and showing how grateful we were for all the volunteers and all the hard work that they did. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does, and I mean, obviously, we can't walk away from where we're at right now in this campaign, because I mean, the President of the United States has waded right in the center of it, and that's where we're at. So let me ask you another question. I have had a couple messages from your area down there, and that is District 1. Am I correct? Representative District 1, Jack Kingston used to be in that area.
Yes.
And Kingston's well known down there, former congressman in Georgia District 1, well known down there. And I have heard about this robocall that he basically, not quote, says, almost Casey Cagle single-handedly won Georgia for Trump. If I'm paraphrasing him, am I close to, it sounds a little like that if Casey Cagle's the one that made sure that Trump won Georgia. I don't know how it went. Is it something like that?
Yes, sir. It was exactly like that.
And then there's mailers, and I do know the Cagle campaign in the last, I'm just going to say 30 days, there's been mailers, and they get upset when you say their campaign if it's a political action committee that's, quote, not affiliated and they can't give direction to, right? But these flyers going in the mail like Trump voter guides that Donald Trump endorsed. And the impression that I feel the Cagle campaign has been trying to move towards in a roundabout way and touch the edge of is that President Trump was endorsing Cagle, and then we all know that the president came out for Brian Kemp. Why do you think the president came out for Brian Kemp as opposed to Cagle, if all of these things Cagle's campaign is saying is true?
Because Brian Kemp is the Trump of Georgia, Brian. He is the Trump of Georgia. He will be the most accessible governor that we have seen in a long time. He loves all the people. And I mean, like I said before, and I've been sending tons of texts and emails to Brian and his team, and it's like they respond immediately. Brian doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't miss a beat. And I think that I can't explain it other than him being, he's strong on borders. He's strong on immigration, Brian. You know, he wants to track and deport. He, just remember, Brian Kemp was busy protecting the integrity of the election. Brian Kemp was the one that first invited Donald Trump down to Georgia. Brian Kemp fought Stacey Abrams when she was trying to get, she was, attacking Brian Kemp about not allowing certain voters where they had, that they had been, investigated and found that some of the voters and ballots or sheets or whatever you call them had came out that there was definitely fraud there. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but let me go another direction. When you're in, and what I'm really trying to do today is actually just put some subjects out there and let you do the talking, because my goal today is just for people out there. Maybe if there's just 10 that's undecided, you're able to convince them, and so our next guest may be able to convince them why to go for your candidates. I don't want to get too involved, but let's go this way. When you were looking at the candidates and getting involved, which I know you do, and you were looking at the candidates, was there ever a time you looked at Cagle as a candidate? Any of the other candidates? What say you? Or were you always for Brian Kemp from the beginning? And was there anything about Cagle you actually looked at a little bit before making your decision? And what are some of the biggest negatives that Cagle has, not particularly your candidate, but Cagle has, that you couldn't support him?
Well, I'll tell you, it all starts with accessibility. The grassroots and the Trump movement, especially in Georgia, are sick and tired of people like, let's say, okay, Cagle. You never hear from him. You never get a call from him. You're never invited to anything except when you're doing a fundraiser, or they want your vote. And Southeast Georgia especially, and a lot of the rural areas. Brian Kemp has been around and very responsive many, many times, not just when he's running for office. That's probably one of the things. I've like I said, I've known Brian. I've heard all the stuff that goes on with Cagle. He definitely has got this special interest in the lobbyists behind him. I'll give you an example. American Laws for American Court, which basically protects women and children against Sharia law, to make sure that American laws take precedent over a Sharia law here in Georgia. Okay, so we were promised, and we worked hard for years, and we said, we were told, and two of our representatives, Ben Watson and Jesse Petrie, who are both supporting Cagle, their stronghold voters and heavy money donors asked for one thing: to get American Laws for American Court passed. That's all they asked for. So we went in there and we got it passed in the Senate or the House, and we were told, just get it through the Senate or get it through the House, and we will get it through the Senate. We will pass it. Well, we got it through the House thanks to the help of Jesse and the Speaker. I give the Speaker credit for that. And it goes to the Senate, and it sits in committee, and it never got out. So, that's the kind of thing, very disappointing. Like I said, we just feel that the Trump movement out there is not being listened to by the establishment. So the bottom line is, if you want to have things continually to go with the establishment and continue to not have a voice or accessibility, then stick with Casey Cagle. But if you want your voice to be heard, and that's another point too, Brian Kemp, when he hands out his business cards, he hands it out with his own personal cell phone number on it. You talk about accessibility. So if you want, if you need someone, if you want someone that you can trust when no one is watching, Brian Kemp is the candidate to vote for.
All right, let me ask you one other thing. You attended the rally Saturday with Vice President Pence. A little bit about the room. I understand about 1,500, and that's pretty good. Pretty good for a vice president rally for governor in Georgia. So what was the atmosphere like there? And obviously, I want to hear a little bit of what the room was like. I mean, obviously these are 1,500 Trump supporters. And do you think the Trump supporters will actually go and follow the endorsement of the president? How big is that endorsement? What was that rally like?
Well, the rally that I went to, and it was like amazing because there was lines a mile long. Well, I don't know, a mile long, but I walked through the crowd, shaking hands, telling them thank you for coming, how much we appreciate it. And it felt exactly like it did during the Trump campaign. It's the same like-minded, everyday, hardworking citizens of this state that were there. And it was an amazing, and the thing about it is all of us seem to be one of the same kind of people. It's just, they're very loyal and committed to Donald Trump. I think that the endorsement helped. I think Brian was just as surprised at the endorsement than Casey Cagle but the reason I think that Brian is just a good, solid, says what it is, says and does what he says, does what he says when he says it. And he's someone that you can trust.
If let me ask you a question. Do you feel the way this campaign on Wednesday, there's a lack of a better word to put enemy, but on Wednesday there's a common enemy, there's a common opponent for everybody on the Republican side. Do you think that this party can unite Wednesday morning and beat Stacey Abrams in Georgia?
Absolutely. And you want to know why? I know is because I'll tell you, there is a unity party scheduled for Thursday that the GOP is hosting. But the reason why I know this is because when I supported, again, David Perdue against Jack Kingston because I thought David was the best man for the job. It took a while, but we united. Donald Trump, 17 different candidates. It was tough in the beginning. It took time to heal, but we came together and we elected Donald Trump. And it will be the same with Brian Kemp. We will unite again because there is no way this conservative state of Georgia is going to support a far-leaning left liberal like Stacey Abrams.
Well, let me ask you that because we've got a couple minutes. Then let me use this as a closer, and that's what I really wanted to finish up with. I don't want to go to the next election. It's like football. The coach always says, "Let's win this game," but the Cagle campaign is playing the second game already to me when the switch here in the last 5 days is Casey Cagle's the only one that can beat Stacey Abrams. It's the old let's win this game first, but that's what they're saying, and they're saying there's not a poll out there that says Brian Kemp can beat Stacey Abrams. Have you seen any polls saying that Kemp can compete with Abrams, or if not, beat her?
I tell you what, what's what makes this America great is that we have the right to say whatever we want to in this nation. And we're very lucky to have that. I even saw a flyer that Casey Cagle was putting out at his meet and greets that said, "Come on out and see me, and I'll tell you why I'm the only one that can beat Stacey Abrams." I think that is an insult to the voters. The ones that are going to go out to the runoff voters are very well knowledgeable, educated, do their own research, and they know. So there is no doubt in my mind, if Brian Kemp is the only one that can beat Stacey Abrams, because, I mean, this, just for example, the recordings that Clay Tippins put out. Can you imagine what the Democratic Party is going to do with those tapings? I mean, are you kidding? And, we all know that there's other baggage, but I'm not going to go in there with Casey Cagle. But that story, like I said, everybody has opinion, and we believe that Brian Kemp is going to be the only one that can beat Stacey Abrams.
Have you seen any polling indicating that? And I'm not putting all of my trust in polling. I just don't. But they are touting what they call polling that says they can beat Stacey Abrams. And then obviously you are aware of the Insider Advantage poll, Fox 5, that just came out with a 55-37 lead for Brian Kemp, like 18 points or somewhere in that area, that just came out. And that's why I was looking to see if there was actually a poll that says that Kemp, where his polling numbers are against Stacey Abrams.
Well, to be totally honest with you, Brian, that has not been my focus. And I have no doubt. Sorry. I mean, I don't
you're trying to win the first game?
I don't worry about what Casey Cagle's doing or saying. I am totally focused on Brian Kemp. I have no doubt in my mind, and all of us in Georgia, and obviously Donald Trump and Vice President Pence and Newt Gingrich and tons of elected officials all over this state have no doubt that Brian can beat Stacey Abrams. Do you think that they would come out if they had any clue that he didn't have a chance? I think not. That's the best answer I can give you, Brian.
That was perfect, and that was a great closer. We wish you and your candidate well. We wish you well, and we know you've been working hard campaigning for your candidate. And thank you very much, Jeannie. And obviously, we'll talk tomorrow and Tuesday night and be all over social media talking about the election.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much, Brian, for all you do to get messages out there. We are very grateful for folks like you.
I appreciate your kind words, and I know you got a busy day campaigning. Okay, our guest right there this morning has been Jeanne Seaver. She is a grassroots activist in the Brian Kemp campaign. She's been working hard. She's on social media all over. It seems to be where everybody's going and putting all their notes and their thoughts. So you've been able to keep up with everybody and what they're thinking. And I will say one of the things that I won't say pushing, but I was looking closer to is Casey Cagle's camp seems to be taking the direction that he is the only one. I want you to put up that voter guide, and I'm not able to see. It says voter guide, Sam. And this is what people were getting in the mail, and I could not, waiting for it to come up here on my end, I could not make out. But it is a mailer, and it says Trump supporter voter guide, okay? And it's the independent by candidate or candidates committee, whatever. And, it scratched out the name of who it went to, but this is in the mail, okay? And it's actually called Trump supporter voter guide. It's for you. If you support Donald Trump, here's your voter guide. Governor, yes, originally endorsed and worked with Trump's campaign. Yes, Casey Cagle. Casey was part of the Trump victory campaign and was proud to stand with Trump publicly. Yes, Casey has been endorsed by those directly in charge of the Trump campaign in Georgia, as well as Trump's national co-chair. So, little misleading, little bit, okay. publicly endorsed Trump, attended Trump campaign events. Now, on Brian Kemp's picture, everything is no, no, no. All right? And that was sent out a little misleading there of Trump supporter voter guide, making you think if you're a Trump supporter, you should go with Casey Cagle. And then obviously this backfired when the President of the United States himself came out and endorsed Casey Cagle. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Sue Everhart's going to be with us. Sue is a former Georgia GOP chair, also a former chair of the Donald Trump campaign here in Georgia. We're going to talk to her and ask her why she is supporting Casey Cagle. We'll get that side when we return. Take us a break, Sam.